So the first thing you're going to want to do is I'm going to use that water again that I just had boiling to help me with this process of sort of fluffing up those eggs. So I've got my egg yolks in here. First, I'm just going to break them down. And you'll want to just use a metal bowl and just a good old-fashioned whisk. Now, when you're whisking, it's often that people will whisk towards themselves. You lose a lot of energy. You actually want to beat away from you. See how it's almost like a stabbing motion? So you actually want to whisk that direction. So what I'm going to do is whip these eggs, these yolks, on top of a steam bath. This is a bain-marie. So we have a little bit of water just getting ready to boil a bit. And I'm going to set these eggs on top and just whisk away. And it's going to take several minutes for this process to really take place. Give it a little more heat. You don't want it to cook on here. That's the other part. It makes this very temperamental. Is you don't want it to actually start to scramble essentially. Now, once I've started to curdle this a little bit, and you start to get those air bubbles introduced into the egg, kind of like this. There you go. It almost looks like a custard, if you will. Now, here comes a chef trick I will give you. The key to getting this sauce done right is a wet towel. This is literally just a wet tea towel. And what you're going to do is you're going to twirl it like you're going to snap somebody in the locker room with it. You're going to make it like a snake, like coil it around. And then you're going to rest your bowl in the center of that. And what that does, see, you can do this with one hand now. It just gives you better leverage to help keep this nice and whisked. And because I'm dealing with a small batch here, it's come up really nicely, really quickly. The larger the batch, the more you have to whisk. Here comes the second part, which I have allowed too much time, is our clarified butter, which has already started to cool down, unfortunately. So we're just going to microwave that for a second. And while that goes, we're going to add a pinch of pepper and a shot of cayenne. Now, here's the really hard part. With one hand, this is why we have our little towel here, okay? With one hand, you need to whisk while you slowly introduce, in this case, about 4 tablespoons of clarified butter. If you add it all at once, it will break. And what that means is everything will start to separate back out again. And that is a Hollandaise. That's it. That's the basics of a Hollandaise. Now, a lot of you may wonder, because this happens to you a lot, I bet, if you ever tried to make this at home, you're wondering, what do I do if it breaks, right? What do I do if it starts to separate out? Assuming this is a broken sauce, you can either add a little more clarified butter or even just some water, and then get it back on the heat for a second. And voila, we're going to leave this to the side just for a moment because we're making eggs benedict today, right? So with eggs benedict, you want your water temperature to be at about 170 to 180, which means it's just starting to bubble up, right? Because what we're going to do is we're going to poach an egg in here. So the water bubbles are just starting to come up. You'll see them just now starting to come up a little bit. The secret to a really good poached egg is this. There's a couple of them. The first is we're going to swirl the water like a toilet bowl. We're going to swirl the water around first and get a current going. And then what we're going to do is we're going to break our egg, and we're going to break it into a spatula, okay? And then we're going to slowly drop our spatula into the water. And that swirling, that cyclone effect, is actually going to help all of those proteins coagulate together to keep that egg nice and fresh and looking. So we have our egg in our ladle. With the other hand, I'm going to swirl that water around. And let go. Just let it go.
Can you move the camera so we can see the?
Give that a couple of minutes in the boiling water there. Good temperature. Clean up a little bit. So what goes into an eggs benedict? It's one of the most simple and yet classic dishes for breakfast. So we start with English muffin with Canadian bacon that obviously I've already taken care of. We're going to check on our Hollandaise and make sure it hasn't broken, which thankfully it has not. Our poached egg is almost ready. Give it another few seconds. And because we're making eggs benedict, our Hollandaise will require a little pinch of salt, a tablespoon of white vinegar, and a tablespoon of lemon, which you'll want to add at the very last minute. Oops. And we'll garnish our plate a little nicer than that. Good. And there you have it. That is the basics of eggs benedict. There you go. And for the moment of truth, to check on our poach, when we cut this, we want to see this egg just ooze all over that plate. Just like that. You want to see that liquid of that yolk just ooze all over the plate so that it just sort of softs into that English muffin. And that, my friends, is the basics of egg cookery. Going back to our soft boil,